Okay, welcome to Into the Channel podcast, primarily about women's football. I am your host, Dino De Cespedes, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Grant Engel. What's up, man?
I'm feeling all right, buddy. Things were happening before this show started. I had a couple of meetings that I needed to get to. Right before we come on here to hit record, I hit the button unwittingly to raise my desk to maximum height. I hear the engine start humming up, and it starts lifting. I'm like, no, get to the right height. So if the camera looks off, my apologies. We'll try to get back to your regularly scheduled programming here quickly.
Oh, man, you look great. Height's good, length good, wingspan. They all seem to be checking out, so I think we're on the right track. All right, man. Busy week. Tons of NWSL. We covered match week 2 yesterday live. Last night went in on I think all 7 matches, and then we've got some Champions League midweek action, and some pretty epic. I mean, appetizers. What was it, like the undercard? Not quite undercard, because I mean these are the heavy. It's almost like seeing the 2 heavyweight champions sparring each other, and then before they actually go into the ring for the real thing. So I mean, tons of lead up. It's sort of at a loss for words. Where should we get started?
All right, I'm going to forsake chronological order. I'm gonna go against everything that anybody who's ever been watching this program has seen. I'm not going to go alphabetical order. Not going to go chronological order. But I'm going to go by order of what's most interesting per day. And obviously, once again, as we've discussed, how could you possibly determine what's most interesting? We got the microphones. It's our show. We're going to decide what's most interesting.
Yep, that all checks out.
All right. So first, it's been a long day, buddy. I'm talking to my pal about football. Let's crack the beverages.
All set. Cheers to the football.
Sounds delicious. Cheers to the football. Cheers to you, my good man. Let's start with Arsenal versus Real Madrid. Yes, it is the second match of Wednesday afternoon, but recent results would dictate. I think we should talk about this one first.
Yeah, man. Huge, big-time results. Arsenal 4. No, I'm just kidding. Real Madrid, get the monkey off their back. Shout out to the guy, Chris Sharples. He kind of leapfrogged our stat of 15 straight. So it turns out, I think, across all competitions, 18 straight losses between these two sides. So this is a matchup that Barcelona absolutely dominated. But yeah, I think we all knew this day was coming, and it just so happened to be this week. And then once we heard our guy Sharples on the call, it elevated it at least 2.5 levels for me.
100%. Speaking of elevating it 2.5 levels, both Gazna and Sadak checking in early as soon as we start the live stream. Shout out to these 2 champions. So wait, you're muted, Dino.
So what you missed was, let's go. It's Champions Week. Appreciate you, Sadak and Gazna. Let's fucking go.
There it is. The beauty of the live show. Yeah, I mean, Sharples, just that baritone Chris Sharples voice, just showing us what a big match should sound like. Look, I mean, Real Madrid gets a 3-1 win over Barcelona in Barcelona. They just came out tough as hell from the very beginning. Their attack looked dangerous from the start. It didn't even look like they were trying to win the possession battle, which we know our pal MLS Architect has talked about, like in the YouTube comments before. Like, don't try to out Barcelona. Just be Real Madrid and play the type of football that you can kind of counter Barcelona with. And they did exactly that.
100%. I mean, I think you look at the possession numbers here. Well, interesting. You look at the shot number and the shot on target number, 18-15 in favor of Barcelona in terms of shots, 6-5 shots on target. Barcelona dominates possession, dominates the passing, but the chances were pretty even. I think Misa had a huge game. That back line had a huge game, and Antonia for Real Madrid was annoying the shit out of anybody that was within 10 or 20 yards of her pretty much all match until she gets pulled off. She was great. Mendes was great. Defensively, they were there for it. It's hard to kind of like describe, Like they weren't going to get rolled in this one. I think even if they gave up an early goal, obviously they jumped out ahead, but even had they fallen behind, it just kind of felt like this was the kind of day where they were not going to let themselves get beat and definitely not let themselves get embarrassed.
Yeah, no doubt. That's a great point. Is that we've talked about like it hasn't just been losing to Barcelona for Las Blancas. They've just been
Yeah.
getting cooked by them just consistently. So that definitely wasn't going to happen. And I think about and obviously we're going to preview Arsenal Real Madrid here, but I just think you know Real Madrid. This you get these performances. Mael Lacrar, all world performance
Yep.
on the defensive line.
Monster.
Misa Rodriguez, phenomenal game. I have to think Madrid fans remember that performance probably going forward for the rest of her time at the club, probably for the rest of
Oh
their
yeah.
lives.
Yep.
Caroline Weir, the Scottish stalwart in the center of the park, playing fantastic, obviously getting icing the match. Linda Caicedo, game-breaking speed and skill. And as we've said multiple times on this program, Alba Redondo, professional goal scorer.
Unreal. I mean, 41st minute, Caroline Muller puts a ball right on the money, literally like the exact point in time and space that also represents Alba Redondo's maximum vertical leap. Like it was just like a perfect, like a perfect math problem of like putting the ball exactly where it needed to go. Redondo's like reaching up, gets a professional goal scorer header to get to the back of the net, and like the exact kind of goal that they needed. Muller was great, I thought, as well. Alberto Toril, I thought, outcoached Romeo in this one in a pretty big way. I think had the adjustments, felt like they were half a step ahead from a tactical standpoint, even though Barcelona, I think, had a good skills advantage. My favorite part was when Toril puts two players on Barcelona's short corner,
There it
just to
is.
kind of not get beat by that. I mean, just pretty much confirming what we probably already knew. Our guy Alberto Toril, definitely a listener to the ITC. He was definitely locked in when we
No doubt.
when we talked about Barcelona Wolfsburg and their shortcomings there. But I don't know, man. Really great performance. Atenea, huge as well. Like a huge headache for that Barcelona defense. I mean, she put a ton of pressure on them, and obviously was involved in the third goal. But I mean, great win. Just a really great professional win. And I think we were talking about this last night. I was so excited for Madrid until I kind of wrapped my head around, oh no, Arsenal's going to be taking on this team that must be flying. I mean, to say they're flying high would be an absolute understatement.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of where my head was going too. Is wow, what does this mean for them? They come off of an impressive win at home versus Arsenal, gutsy in the rain, in the elements. They do it again versus Barcelona. They finally slay that dragon, and kind of get over the hump, get the monkey off their back, as you said. But I got to use a sports cliche, and sometimes I have a tendency to go a little negative. What if you're Real Madrid and you just win that massive match, and then you were at the highest of highs probably for a lot of those. But now some of those players, I mean, obviously Olga Carmona won the damn World Cup. Got the no, pardon me. But you have this massive moment, and now you have to have the come down. And now can you ramp it back up when you go to London and get it and try to finish the job to knock out Arsenal?
Yeah, I mean, two huge results for them back to back. I mean, I feel like if they were going to the Emirates even, or even just up one, it might be a little bit more treacherous. But the fact that they're up two and they're kind of absolutely rolling, and their good players are playing really well. Like it's not just, it's not just okay. Like I don't know, like you just see them, and it just seems like there's different combinations. Like Engeldahl was involved in stuff, and even on the last goal, the third goal to really kind of ice it. Like Olga's involved, Caicedo's involved, Atenea's involved, Caroline Weir like kind of like gets it literally over the line to kind of seal it. But all their players, like there's great interplay. The defense is rock solid. It's no easy feat to hold Barcelona to one goal. But I guess we'll talk about that
Hmm.
But yeah, I all in all, I think they were rock solid. So I think if I had to pick between, is it a letdown game or do they ride the momentum? It does kind of feel like this team could ride this momentum into the semifinals.
I don't know whether to decide. Is this pessimistic Dino, the Arsenal fan, or is this optimistic Dino, the Real Madrid supporter? What am I getting here?
I mean, I'm really trying to be objective. I really, really am. I really do
Yeah.
think that I don't know, man. Like if I had to bet, the next week's show on it, I'm like, I think Madrid's getting through. I think it's going to be a
Yeah.
tall task for Arsenal. I mean, this team just locked Barcelona down at home. Whether it was one goal or two goals, whatever, we could talk about that. But even that is a feat for that team. That team is not going to be scared to go to North London and be like, all right, okay, Mariona, we know Mariona, who's like one of the more dangerous players, and they shut Arsenal down last week. I think there was some shuffling in the Arsenal lineup versus Liverpool. Obviously, Frida Manem, the biggest chess piece there to kind of come in. But I don't know. I don't think they're going to be any kind of intimidate. I think they're going to be way, way up for it. And I think they'll be cagey, defensive. They'll take their chances. We saw them. We just saw them win a game with 32% possession on the road against the
Yeah.
defending champs of literally every tournament that they participated in last week. So I don't know. Sort of scary hours for the Arsenal side of my brain.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. I mean, now I do try to look into, football just being a super weird sport and you getting kind of these weird results. You see a team play four matches and you go, okay, well, that's who they are. And then that fifth match they come around and you're like, where was that been for a month or a month and a half or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. So, are we doing predictions?
I'm down. Let's do it.
What do you got?
I think it's 2-1 Arsenal, and they fall short.
Look at you. I love that pick. I love that pick. That is perfect, footballing drama. Do we get a bonus when does Real score their
Oh,
first?
um, I feel like it's a 1-1 at some point.
Okay.
So I feel like Arsenal opens it up. You know, the Emirates, or I'm not sure if they're at the Wood or at the Emirates, but the building's cooking, and then I think they give up a backbreaker. Whether it's a Weir or Moller or Atenea or Caicedo,
Yeah.
and then maybe they're able to kind of make it interesting, get one in the second half or later in the match. But ultimately, I think they do fall short. I mean, that Madrid defense they're locked in. I mean, it's going to be tough to score on that team.
Yeah. No, totally fair. I think the defense is locked in, but I think with some of that emotional letdown, I think there's going to be some swinging. I think play might get relatively open. We've seen it with Caldente, and Russo running forward. I think it's definitely. I think we might see some goals in this one. I'm going to go 2-2 with
Hmm.
obviously the Gooners still falling short of going through, but I think a couple goals squeak through when you're dealing with tired legs, your third match in whatever it is, 10, 11 days or something like that, the way the calendar is working out. So yeah, give me a 2-2 draw. Las Blancas are through to the semis.
Love it. All right, let's give our guy or friend of the pod P3 Masia a little. Let's scratch the itch here. The offsides
You want to do
call.
it now? Okay.
Yeah, let's do it. The offsides call. I've got okay. I'm interested to hear your take, but my takeaway from it was, let's say they do get the goal, right, and it's 2-2. Now it's 2-2. Barcelona is still playing the same kind of football, the same kind of forward football, and they're still just as likely to give up the third the other way. Like like I don't know that a second goal there changes any of the game dynamics. It's not like Barca's going to be like, "Oh, okay, let's protect this point and be a little bit more responsible." Granted, no way to know what happens, but
Sure.
ultimately, within the final scoreline, that goal didn't matter. Because I think the game just kind of proceeds just the way it does. Madrid wants the winner. Barcelona probably wants the winner as well. Um, So that's my take. Bad
I
call,
love it.
rough-ish call, but ultimately, I don't think on this day it would have made a difference.
Okay, wow, I love that. Yeah, that is bold. I mean, I'm a big believer in like next goal wins, like no matter which way it comes from, and
Mm-hmm.
like kind of that idea in football. But I can see that because I think you could justify that because of the way Real Madrid played and the confidence their players showed on that day. I think that's totally fair. I think when I think about the call, I was trying to give at least like somewhat of a generous read here. Let me make sure. Let me find my notes here. So, okay. And your boy likes to look at the IFAB rules of football from
Who
time to
doesn't?
time. Of course, it's excellent nighttime reading. I think, you know, to get it out of the way, I didn't like the call. I realize I am the Barcelona guy on this podcast, but I'm just really not sure if that call was either fit the spirit or the letter of the law. So thinking about what happened, Alexia plays that little floater, that little looping pass, that little chip over the top. Yasmin heads it and she heads it and is clearly trying to retreat backwards. At which point, CGH appears to be in an offside position and is almost kind of like setting a screen, pardon me, on Yasmin. And that's when Yana comes up and smashes the ball into the net. So IFAB Law 11.2, as everybody listening to this podcast knows, is about the offsides rule. And it says you are offside if you are gaining an advantage by playing the ball or interfering with an opponent when it has either been rebounded or deflected off the goalpost, crossbar, match official, or an opponent, or has been deliberately saved by the opponent. So there you're kind of like, well, did the ball like rebound or deflect off of Yasmin? I don't think so. So you keep looking down because she deliberately headed it backwards. Well, luckily, the IFAB people watch a lot of football. The next part of the rule says a player in an offside position receiving the ball from an opponent who deliberately played the ball, including by deliberate handball, is not considered to have gained an advantage unless it was a deliberate save by the opponent. And this goes back to say uh, if the pass in an attempt to gain possession or clearance by the player in control of the ball is inaccurate or unsuccessful, this does not negate the fact that the player deliberately played the ball. So that's a lot of words to basically say that I think I think some people were trying to make the argument, CGH set a screen from an offside position on Yasmin, and that justifies the offside call. I don't think so because Yasmin, in her mind, either trying to get a clearance or trying to play the ball somewhere out of danger, played the ball deliberately backwards, and Yana, pardon me, comes in for the smash. So I think it's a bad call. Like you said, I think you could justify it that Real Madrid still might win. Goals change games, as a local manager here, Laura Harvey, likes to say. And it is
Mm-hmm.
true. So we'll never know, but we do know that Real Madrid walks off with the biggest win in the history of their women's program for sure. And now they got to carry it into the Champions League.
That they do. All right. So we made our picks. We'll see how this one shakes out. What's the other Wednesday matchup? Scrolly.
Oh, and real quick, while you do that, P3 is right. It was still 2-1. Um, it
Yep.
would have been 2-1 for Barca had they scored that. So they would have taken the lead.
Right. Yeah, because Caroline Weir in the 87th.
Yep.
Yeah, point taken. Either way, Madrid gets the skullboat. I mean, let them get one. I mean, it's still obviously they're still the driver's seat
Well, I mean,
in the Champions
we'll
League.
talk more. We'll talk more about Barca. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they earned it. Let's go. All right. So Wednesday, the early match, 1:45 p.m. Eastern, Lyon hosting Bayern Munich. What do we need to know about this one?
Look, I mean, Lyon notches a comprehensive victory again, in a comprehensive away victory versus Saint Etienne 5-0 on Saturday. Leysa Mer scored in the 9th minute. I think, at some point we will do the rankings of who scored earliest. Maybe we'll do that in the NWSL preview show. We'll figure out a time to figure out who won the race this week. It definitely wasn't Barcelona. I want to say, off the top of my head, I think Orlando Pride wins the race this week for elite team
Oh,
who scores the earliest because of the own goal in the first 2 minutes of the match.
yep. The
Um,
OG. Let's
so
go.
yeah, there you go. So I
Wearing the
digress,
shirt to
but
celebrate.
it there it is. See, you saw it coming. Leysamir scores in the ninth. Hegerberg and DeBritz, they had first half goals, make it 3-0 before halftime. Melchi Dumornay comes on in like the 73rd minute, scores in the 74th minute because that's what she does. Um, Saint Etienne couldn't do a damn thing on offense until like maybe the 50th minute when they had like a half chance. The flying death machine continues. The march toward greatness continues for Lyon.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's wild. 2.4 XG, 5 real G, and 5 different goal scorers. Leyselmayer, like you mentioned, Hegerberg, the Brits, Gilles, Dumornay, just a couple seconds after coming on. I think, yeah, we'll see. I think, I don't think Bayern's got any shot in this one. They're having a really good season. Um, but obviously definitely drawing the short end of the stick. Bayern's probably like their ascension is probably a multi-year ascension, and we'll see if they get the proper support, off the pitch or from within the organization. They get great crowds, but I think this is probably where their Champions League comes to an end this season. And if it is, I think they should definitely be pretty proud of kind of like how far they got this year.
Yeah, certainly. A better performance than last year in the Champions League. They're still super in contention, super live for a domestic double. After they, over the weekend, fell down 2-0 to Hoffenheim in the semifinal of the DFB Pokal. But Pernille Harder wasn't going to let that slide. She ends up notching a hat trick to get them back in the game. And I just got to say, James Thurgood on the world feed for DAZN doing the Bayern game. I mean, who is just rocketing up my announcer power rankings. Let me make sure. I wouldn't dare misquote our guy. So let me just make sure that I have this right. As he says, there's an absolute howler by Hoffenheim's goalkeeper when she comes out way far out of the box off her line, tries to get a clearance, can't get it done. Harder's right there, chests it down, walks it into the goal for the hat trick and the lead. And James Thurgood proclaims, "When other players go hard, Pernille goes harder." And I'm just like,
Let's go.
Is James Thurgood becoming the Stuart Scott of women's football announcing? R.I.P. to the legend Stuart Scott. But that was a legitimate LOL when he let that one go.
Yeah, he probably put his mic on. He probably put his mic on mute after. It was just like, booyah.
Nice.
RIP Stuart Scott fashion. Yeah, incredible. He's got to be on the show at some point soon, definitely for the end of the Champions League season. We're going to try to make that happen. So yeah, out there, if you want to, tag our guy Thorogood, let him know that we're looking for him.
For sure.
All right, predictions. Do we need to make a prediction? I mean, my prediction is Lyon advances and they cruise. I don't know if I got to go any deeper than that.
3-1 Lyon.
Oh, you think Bayern gets one? Interesting.
I do.
Do we know? Do we know Julia Gvin? Do we know injury status? I know she was maybe on the sideline a little bit.
Yeah, she was on the sideline for. Yeah, no worries. I don't know her status for Champions League. I do know she obviously didn't play in that DFB Pokal match. She had some words though after they win that match in an interview with Sky Sports. She had some words for Bayern Munich executives who apparently didn't bother to attend the semifinal, which is a bit of a strange choice if you
Ridiculous.
ask me. Julia Gvin said, quote, "It's a bit of a shame." She went on to say, quote, "I think it's one of the biggest games if you look at all the competitions. We're doing really well in the league, and a cup semifinal is something where you hope for some presence." And then she later said, quote, "It's very, very regrettable. I hope they at least watched it on TV. I hope we go through and that they will be there in Cologne for the final," she added. End quote. So, Julia Gavin, great player, great penalty taker, great quote also.
Yeah. Scorched them. I mean, we had, Claire McEwen on the show a few weeks back. Definitely go back and listen to that. If you missed it, I mean, And if you missed it, Chris Sharple's on our show after last year's Champions League final, Barcelona versus Lyon. Go back and listen to that. We had a great time. Another Hall of Fame voice, in my
Oh
opinion.
yeah.
But you imagine being, I don't know, you imagine telling your grandkids like 40 years from now, oh yeah, I was in management at Bayern. And then they're like, well, tell us about that game, that Pernille Harder hat trick, DFB Pokal semifinal. Wasn't there. I was out fishing or doing something.
Yeah.
Like
Local
it just,
farmers market was popping that day.
yeah, a lot of local brew action that I need to get involved in.
Well,
It just kind of feels like there's so much happening in the sport. Every week, every match week, it feels like new players are surfacing, new things are happening on the pitch that I've never seen before. We've never seen before. Like just absolute rockets. I can't wait to talk about. Well, I guess we'll talk about when we get to Barcelona, but some of the stuff that they were able to do against Real Madrid in a loss was just flabbergasting. Like these players
yep.
are so good, and to just be like, yeah, I wasn't there for that one. I'll sat it out. Maybe we'll see about the final if we make it there. It's just to call it a bit of a shame is an understatement. I think Julie Gavin's probably being a little gentle there. That it's
Yep.
it's an absurdity. Like when you think about how much money this sport is going to be generating, how much interest it's generating in real time, the things that are happening. Like, why would you not want to be in the building and a part, just taking it all in and just experiencing like an explosion of popularity? Like the men's
Yep.
games, the men's game has been sort of at this level. I don't know what, like 30 or 40 years, maybe, where it's just dominating globally and the brands are dominating. But this is like really like the beginning of the Big Bang. It feels like.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. And I mean, it's been dominating globally for that stretch. And when we talk globally, I know we're largely talking about like when did Americans start to get to really consistently watch European football? But football in Germany has been the biggest sport there. Unless one of our German pals can correct me. I mean, it's been absolutely massive for 100+ years. So, like, it would be silly to think that women's football is not going to start to really catch up and get its own market share. It's still football. It's a great sport and it's exciting, and people are here for it. So, yeah, the Bayern Munich execs, they got to do better. They should answer for that. It's good to see a player of Julia Gavin's stature call them out as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it. Love to see that level of accountability. Just kind of going in every direction. It's very important for the growth of the game for sure. Let's fast forward to Monday though. I know you kind of got us all out of order. At least we did Wednesday before Thursday, so props to us for that. But 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, round 4, Chelsea host Manchester City. I mean, where do we even start? I'll kick it to you. I want to. Where do you want to start with this one?
Look, we've seen, obviously, we've watched these teams play each other 3 times. Chelsea, 2 wins, 0 draws, 1 loss. Obviously, inversely, Manchester City Football Club, 1 win, 0 draws, 2 losses. These teams know each other, man. They're getting used to each other's tendencies.
Mm-hmm.
I know you love a good boxing comparison. I mean, they are in the I know your moves, you know my moves. Now it's just who's going to execute them better at this point. I thought, and Kiara Keating comported herself very well in this third match, the league match. She's not going to play in the Champions League match. It's Yamashita. She has to play. She's been too good. But I thought Keating looked great, especially after the real shaky run of form we saw from her earlier in the year. I thought it was cool that Nick Cushing played her in this match. One, you get Yamashita a rest, and you look at Kiara Keating and say, I know you're still good. You just got named to England's international break squad alongside some other great keepers, including the great Anna Morehouse from Orlando Pride. So if you're Nick Cushing, you're looking at Keating and say, I still trust you. Like, I've come in and now I'm the caretaker manager of this club for a little bit. I still want you to play against Chelsea Football Club. And even though Keating's not going to appear in the Champions League, that resonates, I think, throughout the entire club of like, okay, this dude has belief in everybody up and down the roster.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, Keating, a young player, you talked about her struggles. 6 big saves in this one, and under a ton of pressure in the second half. I
Oh
mean, I
yeah.
thought she held up really, really well against, I think Chelsea's best. Again, as that game kind of like neared the finish, it was funny. You mentioned these teams knowing each other's moves. That Cataline goal to open up the proceedings. Nobody knew that move.
That's
That's a
true.
new
Yeah,
move.
that one was
when
hard
I
to stop. Yeah.
when I talk about like the explosion of the game, seeing things we've never seen before, I've never seen that before. Like that was really,
Mhm.
like, really incredible. If you haven't seen it, go back and check that out. Just a wondrous display of skill there by Cataline.
Yeah, I mean, she is in a run of form right now, where I think she's starting to really heat up. NBA Jam version. Now we just need for her to walk into the Champions League second leg, and for somebody to scream, hopefully Chris Sharples, she's on fire, NBA Jam style.
That'd be incredible. Watching this Chelsea City match, though, I kind of I got a little bit of a brainworm just thinking because Yui had that free kick from like a great spot, rocks the
Oh yeah,
crossbar. If City goes up 2-0 at that point, somehow I kind of feel like things snowball the other way. And, now City becomes like, all right, we're the power puncher in this division, but it's just been wild how the ebbs and flows of just within this series, like how it's gone. And I don't know if I know the League Cup nobody was necessarily technically at home, but it does feel like it's been a lot of like home and away, flip flopping, and I
yep.
think, I'm not sure if that bodes well for City. I just know it's going to be an awesome match, this fourth one. I'm really curious to see, from an endurance standpoint, obviously City, the story of this season has been like, so close, but the injuries, this is a lot of minutes. This is a lot of grind. And I think what have we talked about with Chelsea all season that makes them stand out? It's the depth. You bring players in and like, you're just like, holy fuck, this is the player that we got to like take on. And then you have players that, performance wise, we had talked about JRK, who was obviously on absolute fire at the beginning of the season, then cools off in this match, a total problem. Like, City had a really, really tough time just getting in the way of her or just kind of understanding where she might be going. And it just felt like she was leaving defenders in her wake. And, on a different day, she might have had 2 goals in this one.
Yeah, totally. I mean, what she had that like spinning, like it was like a spinning karate kick to try to like wrap the ball into just inside the right post. And our pal Bliss in the chat points it out correctly. Keating did play very well, but Miedema got more goal clearances than shots on target. And
Mm.
Bliss suggests that you got to use you got to use Miedema as a proper number 9. I think especially if Bunny Shaw is not going to be available, which I'm not quite sure her injury status at the exact moment. But yeah, I mean, Miedema at the 9 or at the an attacking 10, she needs to get out there and be active, like we saw in the big win in the first leg of the Champions League. I think you got to go. You got to play at Stamford Bridge. You got to play a Champions League match at Stamford Bridge, and it's going to be extremely nervy, and it's going to be extremely high stakes. It's about as high stakes as this City squad has seen, especially this version of the City squad. But even though last year's team basically had a game to win the title against your Gooners and ended up losing it, it's going to be absolutely massive. And before we get to the predictions, or if you want to use this to roll into the predictions, I think they're going to be up for it.
I like it. I'll go first with my prediction. And the player, thinking about Viv at the 9, obviously very interesting. Could see that working. Maybe it's Catalina on one side and I don't know, maybe Fujino on the other. Well, I mean, we'll see. But the player that I'm interested in, because has been relatively quiet in this series, Just Park. I think it's a player that is capable of being explosive, being hard to kind of pin down. And I think Cushing now, if Just Park can get unlocked by, sort of surrounding Park with like the right players or the right just kind of combinations and schematically having something, up his sleeve to be able to, unlock Park a little bit. I could see Jess Park kind of having an impact on this game, whether through just kind of her passing or her movement, or maybe it's just a golazo of sorts. We'll see. So I actually think this one finishes 1-1 and City advances.
Okay, I love it. Let me just make sure that because I was on that. I was on it for I was kind of tracking that this morning, and I think I'm going to change my mind. Chelsea has 2-1 victories in this series, and then obviously you have the Manchester City 2-0 sandwiched in between those. I think it's City's turn. I think City's going to win this match at Stamford Bridge 2-1. Let's fucking go.
Ow! All right, I need some goal scorers.
Okay, Miedema's going to get one.
Love it.
And then let's go Miedema and Fujino.
I love it. I like that. I don't know if I think Miedema gets it. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna stick with Jess Park. I think Jess Park lets me whip.
I would like to pick Jess Park, but you got it first, and I just out of the integrity of the show.
Here we go. Okay.
No. All right.
Next time you can go first. It's fine.
You stole it from me. No. Give me Alba Fujino Wonder Strike, and then Viv Miedema Scrappy. I'm just running at you goal.
Oh, Bridie in the house. Let's fucking go. Love it.
Are you kidding me?
Welcome to the
go. The legend in the
absolute legend. Bridie, we got some USWT coming up, so the invites, it's in the mail. We'll keep an eye out for it. With that said, let's scoot ahead. Barcelona, Wolfsburg, 1:45 p.m. Eastern, 10:45 a.m. Pacific. Barcelona's going to be a wee bit salty heading into this one. What do we need to be looking out for?
Yeah, I got to tell you, one of the first things that I thought of after that match was, and this is so niche, so inside. I know your pal from Miami. I believe Jonathan Zaslow is his name. That he used to say about when teams would play the Miami Heat, he would just say, "Bad news for them." And that was what that's honestly what I thought about Wolfsburg when Real got that third goal, when Weir got that decisive goal. I was like, ooh, bad news for Wolfsburg, because Barcelona is going to be in a foul mood and they're going to be looking to take it out on somebody.
Yeah, man. I think that's exactly right. And against Madrid, it's Barcelona. They're never going to play poorly, but we have seen them. I think one thing to keep an eye out for, not necessarily in this match, but I think as the tournament plows forward here, Barcelona did look a little frustrated. I think for the first time, I wrote in my notes, I don't really remember seeing them pass backwards so often, and I think that was something in this match where they're just like, okay, here we go. Okay, we got to recycle and reset here. This is not working. We got to start over. And it just felt like there was a ton of that. And it looked like Madrid's positioning was kind of on the money. And then mentally, the moment that I put in my notes, I'm not sure if you remember this. This was like a little bit of a flash moment, but CGH kind of had what looked to be a pretty nasty injury, maybe around the 35th, 38th minute mark, right before Madrid scored. Mm-hmm. She's getting treated, and there's no huddle. There's no talking. There's sort of pockets. There's 2 players here, 3 players over there. They're not really talking. They're just kind of meandering, just kind of strolling out and strolling through the park. And I was like, damn, I'm like, this game's not really going well. And this is a stop and play. And it's a superstar player that's kind of hurt. Either you kind of go there and see what's going on, or you take a moment to say, hey, let's put our heads together here, because it just kind of wasn't working. Was 0% surprised to see Madrid kind of break the seal on that one, literally a minute after that, just because I don't think Barcelona was really totally checked in. The flip side of it, though, what they're able to do, the Moppy ball in to CGH,
come on now,
an absolute missile. I was just like, oh my God. I could just imagine hearing being in the building, hearing the whistling of the ball whizzing by, because it was just I mean, fire. It was an absolute fastball, like right on the money. All CGH had to do was just connect, make a little contact to get them back into that match. So prediction wise, I'm just going to skip ahead to my prediction. Give me 30-0 Barcelona in this one.
All right. Win on aggregate then. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, one thing I wanted to mention about Barcelona, like when you think about the ingredients that you need to beat Barcelona, and we talked a lot about Real Madrid, obviously, at the top of the show, but you need to play, if not your absolute best, you need to be a good enough team where you still play great. That might not be your best to even have a chance. And then secondly, you need Barcelona to miss some chances. And so, like you said, like that Moppy Lyon to CGH header, like that worked great. But then there was a moment in the first half where Alexia sent in a bullet that looked like all CGH had to do was stick her foot out, and it was going to be a tap in. It was an absolute sitter, and the ball goes sideways, and like our guy Sharples was just like, "What was that?" Like he was just like confused on the broadcast. It was very bizarre. You never see that from CGH. So the second part of the recipe is you need Barcelona to leave goals on the pitch that don't get over the line. And they got that. And so, like we've talked about before, when Barcelona has had some curious, curious performances in the past, that doesn't last for prolonged periods with Barcelona. They're going to score those more often than not. And so, there will be a 3 in my prediction. Also, I'm going to go with Barcelona 3-0. I think it's easy day. I think I'll say they score 2 in the first half. I think Wolfsburg, obviously, they have a ton of pride. They have great players. I think they'll come out there and fight it out hard on defense. But I think Barcelona ultimately ends up kind of coasting in this one.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think 2 in the first half, 28 in the second half, and that's how we get to 30. It's just an absolute beatdown. The one last thing I'll mention about Barcelona and Pérez Romeo, like tactically, again, I'm not at that level where I'm like, okay, X's and O's, this clearly didn't work. But substitution wise, I thought the attack went pretty stale. And in my notes, I'm like, I don't know what we need. We're like right around the 50-minute mark. I wrote down 3 names: Esme Brooks, Claudia Pina, Vicky Lopez. And I'm not sure, I'm not fully locked into the injuries of kind of where everybody's status is. Brooks ends up getting in the game, but they just needed something a little bit different than they had. And obviously they brought in Baruelo, I think at halftime for a shirt and live. Who, Baruelo didn't look quite as good as he did last week, but I think had some moments. But I just felt like they needed something a little different. With that said, they did get cooking from like the 65th to like the 85th minute. Like they were really putting a lot of pressure on Misa, who set up to it for sure. But I don't know. I think we might be also starting to see. I agree with your points. I'll say that. I think you definitely need Barcelona to be a little bit off, and they were a little bit off on this day for sure. But I think we have yet to see if Giraldez's departure is going to have any effects this season. And I think as the stakes get ratcheted up, we can see what's happening in Liga F. We're going to see what's going to happen in the Champions League. Shout out to P3 Macio, who very, very dramatically says as soon as Barcelona hears the Champions League anthem, you'll see it in their eyes. They're damn serious. I don't disagree at all. And I think you won't even see it in their eyes. You'll see it in their play, and you might see it in that second half against Wolfsburg when they knock in somewhere between 20 and 28 goals. We'll see where the actual final number lands. But I do think as the tournament gets deeper and deeper, and those little adjustments, those lineups, tactical things start to like really have big impacts, I'm interested to see what Romeo is going to have, and if that ends up being a little bit of an Achilles heel for this team.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously have a relatively small sample of pals who, are Barcelona supporters, but people have questions about, how Romeo's been adjusting in the post-Giraldez world. So I think it's absolutely going to be interesting to see. I do have a question, though. I mean, you mentioned you're not at that level as like an X's and O's guy. So I think we all know I'm not at that level as an X's and O guy. If I wanted to watch a podcast or a video of somebody who is about those X's and O's and somebody who is a genius level strategist like that, what Do you have any suggestions of a show that I might want to watch?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you follow your boy on Threads, you already know that I've given the show definitely plenty of love. But yeah, Bridie O'Toole, who just popped in with us, busy watching women's soccer, an excellent X's and O's type show. And when there's any collabing, I mean, you already know that it's fireworks when these two shows come together. But if you're not following that show, this is live, so definitely stick around with stick around with us if you're rocking with us live. But as soon as the live's over, go to Busy Watching Women's Soccer, hit the subscribe button, because I guarantee you will not be disappointed.
No doubt. On Patreon as well. Support our pal Bridie.
Let's go.
Okay, so you're at 30-0. I'm at 3-0. I think that's all 4 matches of the Champions League quarterfinal second leg, my man. I feel like we've done it.
I agree with you. Yeah, no arguments there. Quick look ahead. We're going to have Champions League recaps after these matches wrap up Thursday. We'll know who our semifinalists are. Very excited about that. And then NWSL Week 3 right around the corner. Some really nice matchups. Washington Spirit host Bay FC. Orlando hosts the surging San Diego Wave. Casey Current against our beloved Utah Royals. Angel City versus your Seattle Reign. That one closes out the weekend Sunday evening. Well, we'll be back probably after all that action wraps up, maybe early next week, to provide you with the NWSL Week 3 week recap that we know you're anticipating with great fervor. So, yeah, I agree with you, man. I think we did it.
All right. I mean, there's nothing left to do but watch the matches. And I guess maybe after this, perhaps talk about the U.S. women's national team roster and then put that show out maybe after those matches. I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
What a pro. Appreciate you. Thanks for having my back there, man. This has been another episode of this channel. Thank you for hanging out. If you enjoyed the show or love women's football as much as your boys do, make sure you're kicking with us each and every single week. Like if you liked, subscribe, follow YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to watch or listen. Leave us a review over your favorite podcast app. We want to hear from you. We love hearing from you. Links to all of our socials, except one, in the show notes of this episode. And a big thank you to my co-host as well, the champion of the ITC, Mr. Grant Angle. I appreciate you, bro.
Likewise, buddy. What a squad we had today with us on the live show. P3, Bridie, Sadak, Skin and Bones was in the house. Bliss was kicking it with us. I mean, we talked about Barcelona fielding a death lineup. This was our death lineup. We were absolutely unbeatable today, and it's a thanks to all of you. So we appreciate you rocking with us, and we will see you all next time.